We are here with Todd Eilers, who's a principal at Eilers and Krejcik Gaming, a consultancy research firm that has gained considerable reputation and authority in the gaming industry in the few short years that you've had this business, Todd. And as a lot of folks who will be reviewing this interview know, we also co-market and co-present some of the research reports that you guys principally do, and they've become industry standards. So congratulations on a tremendous achievement.
Thank you, Frank. Appreciate that, and thanks for having me again on your interviews. Always appreciate the opportunity to sit and chat in the gaming industry.
Okay. So why don't we start off by allowing you to give an overview of your firm and maybe some idea about how you'll be evolving into the future.
Sure. So Eilers and Krejcik Gaming is a market research and consulting firm focused strictly on gaming, divided really into kind of three primary verticals: land-based gaming equipment and technology, which is the area that I head up; digital, which is primarily social casino, mobile gaming. My partner Adam Krejcik heads up that division. And then obviously sports betting and iGaming is a new vertical we launched, somewhat of a big topic nowadays in gaming. And that's a third vertical that we have that's headed up by partner Chris Grove and Chris Krafchek. They do a great job with their team in that area. Each vertical has a package of recurring proprietary market-based reports that track industry demand, market share trends, KPI metrics, anything and everything you'd want to know if you're doing business in that particular area within the gaming industry. Subscription-based, and we layer on some consulting and custom work on top of that, but that's primarily what we do. Over the last couple of years, we've really focused a lot of attention in game performance, and so with Fantini Research, we've extended that relationship beyond our industry-leading slot survey, which typically captures about 40% of the land-based market. We decided to venture into the game performance area and have extended that brand into that realm, and the team headed up by Rick Eckert and Brendan do a fantastic job there. We've built up the land-based database to around, we track about 250,000 slots monthly. Really can do some amazing things with the data that we collect. And then we just recently launched an online casino version of that, which has really ramped up over the last 6 months. Again, same concept. We're tracking monthly game performance, trying to identify which suppliers and which games are really doing well, and maybe some key attributes of those games that are really standing out and kind of contributing to that performance. But that's us in a nutshell.
A lot more sophisticated than the days when people used to send out college kids into casinos to count number of seats that were filled in front of slot machines.
Yeah, we've gone beyond that a little bit more. So yeah, it's nice.
So from your perspective, because you see the entire industry, you study it, you live it. What are a couple or three of the major trends that people should be familiar with?
Sure. I mean, setting aside sports betting, which is obviously a game changer for the industry, and that's everyone's talking about that. But if we were just kind of focus a little bit more on the land-based casino market. Some interesting trends. One that we've observed really over the last 10 years has been the adoption of electronic table games. It's a product category that's been out there for a while. We've gone through several technology cycles and innovation cycles with some ebbs and flows, but really, that was one area with COVID and the casino market opening back up with social distancing and certain operation restrictions, and frankly, some customers who maybe didn't necessarily want to sit at a live table game. We've noticed that the ETG category has really accelerated over the last year, and there's several companies that are doing well in that space, namely Interblock, which is kind of the leader. But you have Scientific Games, IGT, Aruze, all have products in that category. So that's one thing we've seen and would expect that to continue going forward. Beyond that, I think we've seen the emergence of Aristocrat really, frankly, over the last 5 to 7 years has gone from kind of a 10% market share player to a 40% market share player. So pretty dramatic market share gains over that period. They've done a great job. Everyone knows Lightning Link and Dragon Link, but even beyond that, they've done a great job with their products. So that's certainly one trend we've observed, and they certainly don't seem like to be falling off anytime soon. So unfortunately for the rest of the sector, that they're going to be a pretty large competitor to deal with. But it's never been more competitive beyond that. So set that aside, and really there's a lot of great product out there, and a lot of companies are really innovative and doing new things, which was fun for me to track. So I'd say those are a few things to highlight.
One of the things that's happened is there's been this sort of quiet revolution almost of the businesses. And you mentioned slots as one vertical and iGaming as another, and yet they really have met. And we now have the omni-channel, and we have Netflix models, and the industry really is, and in that Netflix model, you have the customer deciding when they're going to have their entertainment. Maybe you could speak a little bit about that sort of evolution.
Yeah, sure. So, it's really kind of started in the gaming industry with the emergence of the social casino product category, which allowed, casino operators, casino companies to touch their player base, daily versus, your monthly or semi-monthly trip to the casino. So that's really where it started. It's obviously gone beyond that with online sports betting, and now we've got several states that have online casino. Our focus on the supplier side, is content. That's the one big advantage that all the suppliers have is content that and great games that have been developed over the last 20 years that are very successful. And so what we've seen is the introduction of those games online. They do fantastic. They're usually some of the top performing games are those core games that you've seen out on floors like Buffalo and Wheel of Fortune and those types of games that you've seen for 20 years in some cases are the top games online. As that online market matures, I'm sure that you'll see, some different styles of games. But that's one thing we've seen initially in taking a look at the game performance for those sites. But clearly, the advantage that these suppliers have is content, and whether you place that in a land-based environment or you port it online. You don't have to spend those additional development dollars that maybe a non-land-based supplier, an online-only supplier would have to spend.
Yeah, and ultimately, it's about playing games or offering games people want to play, period. And that's reduced to that. And I think that's where Aristocrat has had such a strong focus in the years since Jamie Odell had arrived there. And of course, now he's at Sci Games, and they're talking about doing essentially the same thing, putting that focus on games.
Yep.
We've gone through, we think we're winding down on COVID now, and one of the questions, the standard questions we ask the suppliers is, are the operators loosening their budgets yet? From your perspective, how does that look?
Yeah, that's big question in the supplier space. Whether you're an operator, supplier, mainly suppliers and investors, frankly. One of the interesting things we've seen over the last 6 to 9 months is we always kind of divide the market up into kind of 2 areas. One is the core for sale side of the business, which is casino sales, right? And then the other is gaming operations, which is leased and participation games. So what we've seen initially with the reopening was the gaming operations business has fully recovered, and in some cases even exceeding pre-COVID levels as you know, the market is flush with stimulus dollars and people are coming back to casinos to play their favorite games. So that market's done very well. The for sale, the purchasing side of things, you know, it was cut in half essentially in COVID with the COVID shutdown last year. We'll likely see about a 30% increase this year. Still well below 2019 levels. We are hearing encouraging things from casino operators in terms of improved budgets for next year. So I think you're looking at probably another 35% gain next year in sales. That still won't reach pre-COVID levels, but it'll be getting pretty close. You know, typically pre-COVID, you're around 80,000 slot machine sales in the U.S. and Canadian market. That should get you to 70,000-ish, and then we look for a full recovery by 2023, kind of in the 85,000 sales range. And so, you know, the worst is certainly behind us. Things seem to be moving forward in a positive direction. Tribal casino operators seem to be buying more or more willing to you know, return their budgets back to pre-COVID levels. Commercial operators are a little behind them, a little more conservative, but even they are starting to increase their budgets. So things should, assuming we don't have any more setbacks, should, you know, improve again next year, probably in that 30-35% growth range.
And will there be any permanent changes that have either been caused or accelerated by COVID?
Yeah, I think, again, we saw something similar to what we saw in the Great Recession back in 08, 09, was we did see some contraction of slots on floors in some markets, primarily in the highly competitive markets, primarily commercial markets. We did see some of that back in 09, 2010. You know, we're seeing a little bit of that with COVID as well, obviously with social distancing, and we've seen some operators remove games to kind of space out the casino. I suspect some of that will probably be here to stay. Luckily, there's a lot of other markets that aren't as competitive, aren't as mature, and those markets continue to grow. We still have new casino developments coming online, and so, you know, for a brief period, kind of over the last 6 to 9 months, we have seen that install base dip a little bit, kind of in that 1% to 2% range. We do look for that to rebound going forward, and likely will continue to grow in a 1% to 2% range going forward, based on the new developments coming online.
You recently released a report that showed fewer machines in North American casinos now than there had been. And you can walk into a casino that a decade ago had 2,500 slot machines, and today it might have 1,900. Is the peak of the slot machine industry behind us?
No, I don't think it's behind us, but I do think you know, you're seeing other areas that are taking off. And so, you know, a big area that we've always talked about, I know you guys follow a lot, is the route markets. And so, you know, that's outside of the normal casino market. You're looking at a large number of retail locations, small number of games, but Illinois is a perfect example of you know, it's almost, I think, a 40,000 unit market roughly nowadays. That's been a huge growth driver for the gaming equipment market, for those suppliers servicing and providing games. And so you've seen other markets like the Georgia COAM market. You know, that's you know, probably a 25,000 unit market. And so you are seeing some pockets of growth. You still have new casinos coming online. There's areas like historical horse racing machines in Kentucky and Virginia, and there were 2 new states that approved that style of gaming machine, in New Hampshire and Louisiana, and so you're seeing growth in that area. And so no, I don't think it's peaked, but you're seeing different markets, different product styles like ETGs emerge. And so I think, there's still plenty of opportunity ahead. Obviously, it's not going to be the same growth level as sports betting or iGaming, but all of the suppliers are attacking those markets as well. And so I think, if you're a supplier, there's plenty of growth opportunities, both land-based and online.
Okay. Todd, that's a very, very informative overview. Thank you.
Thanks, Frank. Appreciate it.